All right. I think we are live in all of the places I meant to be live. Good evening. How is everybody doing on this lovely, I don't need to hear myself twice. That's crazy. I'm Carol Williams with Williams Immigration. I am the managing attorney, and we help businesses and families navigate our U.S. immigration system. And I go live usually Monday through Thursday around 7. I'm a little bit late tonight. I had some stuff that was going on. And I wanted to give you guys an update, what's happening with the government shutdown, and also answer any questions that you might have. Just sort of a nice place for a little bit of education. In terms of the shutdown, um, generally speaking, more than one immigration agency will touch your case as it winds its way through the system. So depending on what that agency is will depend on how much slower your case is processed during this government shutdown. Especially, want to give you guys this info since we don't know how long the government shutdown is going to be. So in general, USCIS is up and running. They are, in fact, processing cases. So that is that. They are up and running. Well, most of CIS is up and running because they are funded in large part by the filing fees that everybody pays to them when they file an application. The part of USCIS that is not up and running and doing things is E-Verify. So if you are an employer and you are using E-Verify, you can still hire people, you can still bring them on board. You must do your I-9s, but you're not going to be able to do E-Verify right now. So you're just going to have to keep a list of who those folks are, and then you can do E-Verify when the system is back up and running. So E-Verify gets its money appropriated to it from Congress, so therefore they have shut down E-Verify during the government shutdown. Department of Labor, that is the big stall. They are not doing anything right now because of the government shutdown. So if you need an LCA for an H-1B, any of your employment-based cases, those are not being done. If you need a prevailing wage, if you've already submitted a prevailing wage, if you've already submitted an LCA, they are not being worked on. If you've already submitted your PERM application, they are not being worked on. If you need to submit your LCA, your prevailing wage, or your PERM, the system is down. So FLAG is completely down and not available to us right now. So that's going to cause a bit of a delay in your cases. So Department of Labor is a bit of a sticky issue right now in terms of keeping some cases moving. Department of State, as we know, oversees all of our U.S. consulates and embassies around the world. They too get funding from the application fees. So as of right now, visa applications are still being handled and done and scheduled. We'll see if that slows down if going to be positive here, if the shutdown continues. We'll see how that shakes out in the end. ICE, we know, they're still working. Immigration courts, they are still working as well. If you are on the detained docket, meaning you are in, or your loved one is currently in ICE detention, those cases are moving forward. If you are on the non-detained docket, meaning you are not in an ICE facility, your case is, from what I understand right now, still moving forward. So please do not assume that your interviews with USCIS, your biometric appointments with US, that you got through USCIS, or your court hearings, your immigration court hearings, are not going to move forward. Do not assume that those have been postponed. If the Immigration Service is going to proactively postpone, they will send you something. They will let you know. And I have to say, for my clients, I haven't gotten anything yet. So we are moving forward business as usual when it comes to folks that are expecting to get interviews, or folks that have interviews scheduled. So keep all that in mind. That is everything that's happening with the government agencies right now. So it's a lot of hurry up and wait, more so than usual. And if y'all follow me for any length of time, you know I'm not the most patient person in the world. So it's a little difficult, but I've packed a little bit of extra patience every morning when I get to my desk. And I'm happy to answer questions to the extent that I can. A reminder, while I am an immigration attorney, I am not your specific immigration attorney. So our conversation is really educational. I cannot give you legal advice as I don't represent you and don't work on your case and don't know all the ins and outs of it. Thanks for the hearts, guys. I've got a couple of people that have joined my fan club. I appreciate that. Let's see here. What are we? Someone has asked, why are the officers mean? I'm assuming you mean the USCIS officers. So not all the CIS officers are mean. Not all of them, I should say not all of them come across as mean. I say this often to people. An approval by a mean officer is what you consider to be mean is still an approval. A denial by a really nice officer, or what you perceive to be nice, is still a denial, right? The officers are people. They have bad days just like we do. I truly have not, in my almost 30 years of practice, come across an officer that I thought was mean, like just really mean or just kind of out of pocket. I have not come across that. So I tell my clients, we're not in there. We're not in there to become friends. They have a job to do. So do I. So do my clients. We all have a job to do. So I haven't come up against the officer that you have come up against. But I would say that I don't know that I think they're all mean. I think some of them are having a bad day, just like we do. But unlike when they have a bad day, when I have a bad day, I can close my door and not particularly interact with other people. They don't have that luxury if they are seeing people all day, every day. So I like to give them a little bit of grace because sometimes we have a bad day and we still have to move forward and come to work. And those days are hard. So I honestly haven't come across like a super mean officer yet. Not saying they don't exist. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying I haven't, but I do give people sort of the benefit of the doubt. They have an extremely difficult job. So that's my thought on the stereotypical mean immigration officer. Is that sometimes I don't think they're always mean. What's the I-130 F2B processing time? Off the top of my head, I do not know. But I tell this to everyone. If you go to the USCIS website, they will tell you. The website gives you, actually, I should go to that page and I will walk you through how to find them. And I think this is super helpful, you guys, to understand how to use the USCIS website. If you go to the USCIS website, everything is in a box. Everything on their page is in a box. If you scroll down on their homepage and you go to check processing times, you wait for them to do all the, tell me that I'm a real person. You scroll down, you'll have three drop-down windows, three drop-downs. If you click on I-130s, form category, for sake of argument, we'll say U.S. citizen filing for spouse, parent, or child under 21, but click on whatever your particular category is, and then you click the office that has your case, and you can get that from the receipt notice. Then you click get processing time, and it will spit you out a processing time. That processing time is representative of 80% of the cases that they have that are similar to yours. 80%. Some are going to be faster, some are going to be slower. But that is a great way to look at your processing times. If you think you are past the processing times, you can scroll further down and then it says, when is your receipt date? You type in your receipt date, you click the get inquiry date, and then it will tell you the date that you can make an inquiry. Depending on the facts, depending on what's happening in your case, sometimes I will frankly ignore that inquiry date and put an inquiry in. Other times I will say, nope, I think we should wait a little bit longer. We have to give them a chance to do their jobs. So some people don't like when I say that, but that's kind of how I practice. You can't sort of always tell the agency that they're not moving fast enough. I've had folks that their cases have been pending for 2 months are like, I want an inquiry. I'm like, oh no, we're not doing that. We're gonna actually give them a chance. But if we're outside of the processing times, then an inquiry is just sort of a little ping to say, hello, can you tell me what's happening? Let me see here. Someone is asking, are citizenship officers, which are just USCIS officers, referring people who apply for citizenship to ICE if their cases get rejected? So if cases get denied, USCIS has always had the ability to send that case file, over to the immigration court. And then it's up to the immigration court whether or not they want to accept that case. So are they sending cases, are they automatically sending cases that get denied over to the immigration court? That I don't know. I have not personally seen that. And in conversations with colleagues, I haven't heard that. But it takes a little while for things to get processed. It's one big bureaucracy. But I personally have not seen that. So I can't say that is something that is for sure happening, but it is something that they have always had the ability to do. So hopefully that is helpful. Let's see here. What else do we have? Hold on. There we go. Do most officers like DACA? That's an interesting question. I don't actually think it's an issue of like or dislike. Typically, officers handle certain cases that are assigned to them, certain cases that they have been trained on. So one officer may do adjustment of status all day, based on marriage. If you're at one of the larger service centers, you may do extraordinary ability cases all day. So it's not really about whether or not the officers like or dislike a certain case type. It is probably the case type that they have been assigned to do, so that they are proficient in one case type, and that really helps them process cases better, because they're not switching from one case type to the next case type that has a completely different set of criteria, which honestly is why employment-based cases are generally processed in separate offices with separate officers than family-based cases. So yeah, I don't think it's really a matter of whether or not officers like DACA or not, or any other case that they're working on for that matter. I have DACA, a misdemeanor dismissed. I renewed 3 times after that. Should I be worried about renewal? Possibly. It depends on what the misdemeanor was, when it happened, what was involved. If you have DACA and you have any sort of criminal history, or if you are applying for a green card or citizenship, you have any sort of criminal history, I always recommend folks have a conversation and work with a lawyer on their case. Crimes and having a criminal history is very, very specific based on the actual rules where the crime occurred. So it's based on how the law is written for that particular state, jurisdiction, or country. And if you have a crime anywhere in the world, I tell my folks I want to know about it, so that we can figure out whether or not it will have a negative impact on your case or not. Someone is asking where I am located. I work out of Florida, but I work with clients all over the country and internationally. Someone is asking, do cases get, do all officers deny if a birth certificate doesn't have the parents' names? That's a hard, I can never talk about what all officers do. I can't represent all officers. Um, and I was the type of officer that wasn't working on actual cases. So USCIS has been very clear in that they want people to use the reciprocity table, so that we are submitting the correct documents, the correct civil documents. Birth certificates, death certificates, marriage certificates, divorce decrees are different in every single country. Every single country. So somebody or several somebodies at Department of State painstakingly went through and looked at all of those civil documents, and compiled what they should look like, gave a description, how you can obtain all of those documents. That is all in the reciprocity table. So if the document doesn't meet the reciprocity table guidelines, USCIS, or if you're working overseas with a consulate or NVC, will absolutely request something that does. Will they deny? I haven't seen a denial based on, based on that. But I have certainly seen requests for further evidence, with them telling us that the documentation that was submitted doesn't meet their requirements. Let's see here. Let me see here. I-130 approved. I-130 approved, but 45 denied and out of status because of my joint sponsor. What do I suggest? I suggest you work with somebody, quite honestly. I suggest you work with somebody who can help you through the 485 denial. Maybe at a point where you can ask them to, sort of reopen it, or, you'd have to kind of see what on paper why CIS denied it. If your joint sponsor wasn't making enough money, if your joint sponsor pulled out at the last minute, I would suggest that you work with an attorney who can help you sort of sort through what CIS is looking for, so that you can present documents that that will help you get approved. The other thing I want to say is October 29 is kind of a big day for USCIS, despite the shutdown. And that is the day that they will no longer accept checks and money orders. So there are two forms. One is for ACH transfers. The other one is for credit cards. So make sure that as of the 29th, anybody that is submitting something to USCIS, if there is a filing fee required, it cannot be done using check or money order. Someone is asking why expedite cases with extreme hardship, financial hardship, and humanitarian crisis get denied. Expedite cases get denied every day from the agency and from USCIS, as well as from the consulate. And they get denied every day because the government takes expedite requests very seriously. And to approve an expedite request means that someone is being jumped ahead in line, hundreds, if not thousands of people. And so that for an agency that processes cases on a first in, first out basis, that is something they take very seriously. So many requests for expedite get denied. Do I think my clients always have a reason for expedite? Absolutely, right? Of course I do. I'm human, right? But cases for, expedite requests absolutely are going to get denied. So doesn't mean that there isn't extreme hardship, doesn't mean that there isn't financial hardship, doesn't mean that there isn't a humanitarian issue happening. But they have to balance all of the requests that they get against, can we or should we jump this case 100 or so cases ahead, or hundreds of cases ahead, or thousands of cases ahead? And sometimes that's not something that they are willing to do. Sometimes it comes down to, is this fair? And so those get denied. Let me see here. They canceled my green card interview, marriage based twice. Is that a problem? I don't know. It could be, could not be, right? It could be they canceled it because of administrative issues within the agency. Maybe someone took leave of absence. Maybe somebody was on vacation. Maybe somebody left the agency altogether. Maybe somebody transferred to another office and they didn't have somebody else to take over that person's caseload. Maybe they were transferring cases to a different office. Maybe yours accidentally got transferred. They need to transfer it back. A zillion and one internal reasons why your green card interview could have been canceled that have zero to do with you. Maybe they got your background checks back, and maybe they didn't like something about it. So instead of bringing you in for an interview, and then potentially putting you into administrative processing, maybe they're figuring it out before they bring you in for an interview, right? I don't know. Or maybe it was just an accident. I have no idea, right? So it could be, it doesn't necessarily mean that there's a problem. If that happened to my client, would I be irritated? Absolutely. Would I be annoyed? For sure. Would I automatically jump to something being wrong? Not necessarily. Not necessarily. I would ping them and be like, hey, what's going on? You've canceled this twice on us. We would like to, move this along. So yeah, it's not ideal. It's not ideal, but it's not something that I would sort of freak out about. Thanks for the follows, guys. I do appreciate it. What else do we have here for questions? Someone is saying a family of 5, will we all have to go to the interview for asylum? Will everybody be interviewed? I generally don't handle asylum cases, so I don't know. I do know in sort of cases that I don't handle that involve families, if they want them at the interview, they will tell us. I don't know, however, if asylum works the same way. Typically where I have worked in the past, asylum actually had their own buildings. And I think that was just a sort of a real estate issue. But I don't know. But I would read the interview notice very, very carefully. And see if you can glean any info from there. My husband has a conditional green card, which means it's valid for 2 years. Can he drive CDL? I'm assuming that means commercial. And why he has limited term in his license. I'm going to take your questions backwards. He has a limited term on his license because he has a conditional green card. Some states will only issue licenses up until the end of the green card or up until the end of the lawful status. That is, lawful status documents that are submitted. So with a conditional green card, it makes sense to me that his license was issued to the end of the green card. Can he drive CDL? I have no idea. That is a question for the driver's license agency. I don't know. I would check out whatever state you're in. I would check out their website and see if they have any restrictions on that. If he is looking to get a job or has a job offer, if that's a question that he has, I would have him ask the potential employer and see what they say. But I have not heard of a restriction on that. But that doesn't mean anything. That just means I haven't heard it. That does not mean that there isn't a restriction. So I would do a little bit of due diligence and research and have a chat with the folks at your driver's license bureau, agency, office, whatever y'all call it. So I don't know why they would deny that, but I would have a conversation with them. It may also maybe an issue with who he's working for, what they may be calling. So lots of sort of questions in there that you may want to get some clarity on. How long it takes to get my green card? My daughter files for me. It depends. Right now I-130s are taking over a year. And then the adjustments will be based on what preference category you're in. So I'm going to say at least a couple of years. If it is a immediate relative application, then I've had this come fairly quickly I'm quick in immigration terms, y'all. Quick in immigration terms. Maybe like 8-9 months-ish, which is super fast right now. So, we'll just have to, I would check and see, on the USCIS website what the processing time is right now for I-130s in your particular category. For divorce decrees, does USCIS want official or certified copies? I don't know what you are calling the difference between an official and a certified copy. USCIS wants a copy of the official document. You can give them a certified copy. Make sure that you check the reciprocity table. We talked about that a little bit earlier. The reciprocity table is updated by the State Department to make sure, or it gives a laundry list of what documents both USCIS and the consulates will accept. Let's see here. I applied for a 751 in October 2023. Should I call USCIS for a status update? First, I would look on the website and see whether or not you are past processing time. Let's see. Don't see any new questions. Hold on. Let's see here. All right, let me check what's going on. Over on YouTube, So it's saying, I'm going to my home country after 20 years for an I-130 visa interview. Any advice / info on what to expect during the interview? I would bring the documents. I would bring a full copy of the I-130 application. I kind of don't actually know what kind of application you have, but I would review the application that you filed. Really just to refresh your memory about what you filed. And it really kind of depends on what kind of application you have. Whoever sponsored your application, bring evidence that you are in fact related to that person, whether it be a marriage certificate, a birth certificate, that sort of thing. Um, without sort of knowing who sponsored you, that's a little hard to answer. But yeah, um, it is. But they generally tell you, like if you're going to the consulate, NBC will give you a laundry list of what the consulate wants to see. The other thing that's also really generally helpful is all the documents that you give to NBC. Take the original and a copy. Also, and NBC will usually does this. They should give you a link to a State Department website that literally walks you through the interview, like pre-interview items that you should be doing, interview items that you should be doing, post-interview items that you should be doing. Like those websites are the most up-to-date information. I don't even print them and save them because they are updated by the consulates. So every single time I have someone going overseas, we look at the specific country's website from Department of State very, very closely, down to approved doctors for the medical. Each consulate is slightly different. Each country has different resources. Some countries, when they were switching over to using couriers to collect documents and passports and all the things, like, so your courier service isn't going to be the same. The process isn't going to be the same. So that website usually NBC provides that link. So I would get a copy of that. I would get that link and read it front to back. This is what I have my clients do: read that link, because a lot of it is in country information and in country action items that I cannot do for them. Like I don't reach out to the doctors for them, for my clients. They have to figure out based on where they're going to be staying in country. Does it, so there's just a lot of sort of in-country coordination. But yeah, I would find that link and take a look at it. Let me see on the site. My wife and I told us she sent an inquiry to immigration. She said the green card is approved, but when we check the immigration website with our case number, it's still pending. Sometimes it takes a minute or two or a couple of days or weeks for the Immigration Service to update the website with case status updates. Sometimes they're updated like super fast, sometimes they're not. It looks like you're working with a lawyer, so if you are, I would reach, and you're not quite sure what's happening, I would reach back out to your lawyer and ask them that very specific question. Why do they think it's approved? What, can they send you something that says it's approved? Because just tell them like you're checking online and it's not approved. And so I would have that conversation. Let me see. We'll see if I've got a couple of questions left. If I do. Let's see. Most compelling information for a marriage. There is no most compelling information for a marriage, which is not at all what you want to hear, but bear with me. There's no most compelling information for a marriage. Everybody's marriage looks different. And so uh, everybody's documents, well, there's sort of a general sort of, you're going to have a you're going to have a marriage certificate. You may have some photos of yourselves together, right? Um, but there's no rule that says that you have to be living together. There's no rule that says that you have to have a joint bank account. You know, so all of these things that are in chat rooms or what have you, where people list out all the things that they submitted, and either it worked or it didn't work. It worked or it didn't work based upon their individual relationship. Um, Folks don't have to be of the same religion. They don't have to be living in the same house. Um, Now, what you do have to be able to do is explain how you're living your life, why you are living your life a certain ways. Are there religious reasons as to why you're living your life a certain way? Are there cultural reasons why you're living your life a certain way? Is it just a preference and it makes your lives easier, right? As to why you're living your life a certain way. So there is no sort of magical list of documents to show that you have um, a bona fide marriage. That like it just doesn't exist. And I get asked for this list, this magical list, all the time. That said, do I give my clients a whole list of documents that I would like to see? Absolutely, I do. Right? It's a starting point. It's a starting point, and I tell them no client has ever given me everything on that list. That list is like my ideal laundry list of documents that I would love to be able to give to the immigration service and be like, here, like this, I think this is perfect, right? But that is a list that I have developed over years, right? Little things here or there, little things that, um, I think maybe pushed one case over the edge that legit may not work for another case. But there really isn't a this magical unicorn list of like the perfect combination of documents to submit for a marriage application. The best list is based on how you and your spouse are individually living your lives. I always tell my clients, it's your job to live your life. It's my job to provide immigration the documents that you give me and explain how you are living your life and why they should check approved at the end of the day. So that is sort of the answer that I'm quite sure you did not want. um, but there's no magical list. Family-based immigration is very different in that respect from employment-based immigration. For some employment-based cases, there is a magical list. There are some documents where if we don't send them into the immigration service, they will absolutely give us an RFE and be like, well, what are you doing? What are you doing? You know that we want these documents right here, this list, and you've not given them to us, right? Um, Family-based immigration is not like that. Certainly, you're going to need a marriage certificate. If you've been divorced before, you're going to need a copy of the divorce decrees. Both parties have been divorced before. Um, but in terms of proving to them that your marriage is real, there is no magical list. It just doesn't exist because not all marriages are the same. So hopefully that's helpful. That's probably not what you want to hear, I know, but hopefully it is helpful. So think about your own relationship. What makes you all unique and special and different? You know, I don't know. Do you guys write love notes once a week? Does one of you get flowers for the other one once a week? Do you guys always exchange cards? Like, what makes y'all different? What makes y'all special? Think about those things. Um, and then think about the evidence that you can provide that explains those pieces of your relationship. And an application, those applications I find much more compelling, much more interesting to put together, and they tell a much better story about the couple. So hopefully that's helpful. I think that's a, you know, I like I like sort of ending on a good, happy, coupley, lovey type note. So I think I'll be back again tomorrow, around 7ish, ish. Focus on the ish. PM Eastern time. I will give you an update if I have any more info about the government shutdown or anything else in U.S. based immigration. Again, I'm Carol Williams with Williams Immigration. We work with businesses and families, helping you guys navigate our U.S. immigration system. If you want to work with me and my team, you are welcome to give us a call or schedule a consult, and we will start. We'll have a conversation and see how we can help you. But that's all I got for tonight. Have a wonderful rest of your Tuesday and a great rest of your week. I will see some of you back tomorrow. Have a good one. Bye, guys.